Welcome and thank you for standing by. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Hello and welcome to the 2021 Capital Magnet Fund AMIS application demonstration. My name is Eddie Tobolewski. I'm the Associate Program Manager, and I'm also joined by Sarah Hanley. We're very excited to have you join us today. This webinar focuses on the steps for creating, completing, and submitting the application in AMIS. We will also talk about upcoming webinars, application materials, and key application deadlines that you should be aware of. We hope you find this webinar helpful and useful. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Sarah, please take it away.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for watching this demonstration. To start, we're going to go over just a few key pieces of information, and then we're going to do live demonstrations of how to access the information on our website, as well as how to access AMIS, the Awards Management Information System. So first, we want to let you know that part of the application for the FY 2021 CMF program requires the use of grants.gov portal, and this is the official website for federal grant information and applications. If you experience any technical difficulties when submitting the application via grants.gov, we ask you to not contact the CDFI fund, but instead to use the grants.gov support. You can see the listed phone number and email here, and when we're reviewing the application materials, I'll show you where you can find that on our website as well. The second place where you can search for various sources of information are these various options. If you have a question related to the CMF application itself, you can contact one of our staff members at the cmf@cdfi.treas.gov email, or give us a call at the number listed. We also suggest submitting an AMIS service request, and we'll show you on the next slide how to do that, and we will be demonstrating that as well during this webinar. If you have a question about your certification, compliance with previous award, your assistance agreement, then you can contact the CCME staff, and again, you can see that email as well as phone number listed here. And finally, if you're having issues just with AMIS itself, perhaps trouble logging in, then we suggest that you, again, submit a service request, email amis@cdfi.treas.gov, or give a call directly to the help desk. And then on this slide, this is how you will, again, submit that AMIS service request. We will be showing you how to do these steps as well. You'll log into your AMIS account, you'll click on Service Request, then create New Service Request. You'll select the program, Capital Magnet Fund, and complete all required fields. This request will be channeled to one of our CMF staff members, and we will be able to respond by email or directly through AMIS. So now we're going to switch to showing you where all the information is housed on our website and give you a live demonstration of how to actually submit the application. So one moment while I share my screen of our website. So here is the CDFI Fund's website. You can see it at cdfifund.gov. And to navigate to the Capital Magnet Fund page, you go under Programs and Training. And the second drop-down is Programs. You can see the various CDFI programs here, and we're going to click on Capital Magnet Fund, CMF. When you click that, it brings up to our unique Capital Magnet Fund page, and we have basic information about our program here. If you scroll down, you'll see there's multiple steps in the How to Apply area of our website, but we're going to focus today on Step 2, Apply. So if we click on that, it'll bring us to a new page which has a great overview of the various steps in the application. So first I want to go over the deadlines that are associated with the application. So again, we're scrolling down and you can see these FY21 application round timeline key dates. So first, the application round opens September 9th. There are two deadlines for October 12th. That's when the online submission of the SF Standard Form 424 is due via grants.gov. And just as I talked about earlier, that's that separate system that is required for all federal grants. And in addition, for April 12th, there's a deadline to create the organizational account in AMIS. October 4th is the last day to contact the CDFI fund with application questions. And again, showing that information I did on the slide, you can contact our staff via email or via service request. And then November 9th, 2021 is the deadline for all application materials within AMIS. And Eddie's going to show us a live demonstration of how to navigate within the application and do that submission. We estimate that in spring 2022, that's when the FY 2021 Capital Magnet Fund Awards will be announced. Next, I want to show you these very helpful modules that we've created. We have 6 modules that provide a really nice overview of the Capital Magnet Fund and provide great information on the various aspects of the program. This includes attracting capital, our eligibility and program requirements, affordable housing generally, as well as economic development. We really encourage you to review these as they have a wonderful overview of material here. And then next, 2 webinars we want to make sure that you're aware of that we have scheduled during the month of September. First, we have the Affordable Housing Developers Managers Approach webinar, and that's September 22nd. We have an access link here, so if you simply click here at the time of the webinar, your information will be preloaded, and then you can see the conference line and audience passcode as well. The following week, we'll be having a webinar for Financing Entities Approach, so we strongly encourage you to attend at least one of these presentations. After the webinar is complete, you'll be able to access the slides from the webinar as well as the recording itself here on the website as well. It'll just be replaced right here on the right, so you can attend live or watch the recording. This is what we're recording today, the AMIS application demonstration, and that will be posted here upon completion today. And then next, the very important materials that you're going to get to know very, very well over the next several weeks as you put together your application. Most importantly, the CMS Fund Notice of Funds Availability, the NOFA. This has eligibility requirements, scoring. Everyone needs to review this prior to submitting, so it gives the must-haves for the application. The application instructions, the second attachment, show how to complete the application and gives instructions on how to complete each question. I'm going to open that because I just want to make sure that we're all familiar with how to navigate within the document. There's a very helpful table of contents within the application instructions. So if we go to, let's say, this section on grants.gov, which we've already talked about, gives a really nice overview of all the steps and information that you need to complete the SF424. And again, as we talked about before, this is where the grants.gov help desk, where you can reach them via email or phone call if you're experiencing any technical difficulties while completing this SF424. And then next, I want to go over the application frequently asked questions. This is a wonderful document, and we really highly suggest that you review before submitting. Many of the questions that you may have can be answered here. So if I open this up, again, there's a wonderful table of contents here, which are grouped together on different categories. The same table that I showed you before on where you can seek help, that table is also here in the frequently asked questions. So who can I contact if I have more specific questions? Again, here's that nice graph if you need to refer to it again. Next up is the glossary. This is where key terms are defined. You may see acronyms or words you're unfamiliar with. Definitely reference the CMS glossary, which will be able to define all of those, all that terminology. I'm going to skip number 5. We'll come back to that. And number 6, so the CMS application AMIS guide, use and navigation guide. So this is really kind of the text form of what we're doing today. So all of this we're going to demonstrate live, but you can see in step-by-step screenshots how to complete the various parts of the application. So again, this is extremely helpful. It's very technical. So if you need more step-by-step guidance to reference, definitely encourage you to take a look at this. Okay. And then finally, the Capital Magnet Fund interim rule. All applicants should review this prior to submitting. It's very useful and gives the guidelines of the CMF program. The final document I want to talk about is the FY21 Capital Magnet Fund Areas of Economic Distress, High Opportunity Areas, Rural and Low-Income Area Data Set. So this document, if you open it up, it opens as an Excel document, and it provides the census tract as well as information about that census tract information. So that is one way you can check it. But there's also a, I think, very robust mapping tool that the Capital Magnet Fund and the CDFI Fund offer for you to be able to possibly look up addresses where you hope to include that in your application. So I'm just going to briefly show you how that works. So if you go again to the top right, Tools and Resources, click there, and we scroll down to CIMS, Community Investment Mapping System. So if we click on this, and then we scroll down, we're going to be accessing the Public section. So we'll click Public, and then for our program, the Capital Magnet Fund program, we click here, CMF. We'll click that here, and you can see that it's loading. So a great way to be able to use this is if you have a certain project in mind that you'd like to check, you know, is this in a high opportunity area? Is it in an area of economic distress? So I'm going to use the CDFI Fund's address as an example to demonstrate how this technology works. So I simply type that in, I click on the address, and you can see that I can use this legend to be able to see where this specific address, what types of data applies to it. So I can see that it's in an area of economic distress, and it's in a low-income area. The layers here right now, they're automatically checked for FY 2021, which is great. But down the line, if you need to check and ensure one of your projects is under the applicable area for your previous grant round, you're able to change these as well. But for the application, we're just focused on the FY 2021 information. If you wanted to see the surrounding census tracts to see and understand what information applies to them, you can simply click within the map and be able to see what different information applies. So with this striped color, we can see that, just 1 minute, sorry. And you can see over here on the details that it is a high opportunity area, which is represented by this horizontal purple color. So this really does help you be able to visualize what you may be looking at for the various data points within your application. So with that, just navigate again back to where all the application information lives. Go back to Capital Magnet Fund and scroll down to the application area. This really is going to be the webpage where you'll access all of the information, and it really provides a lot of great information that we hope you'll review prior to seeking any additional guidance from us. And with that, let me turn the controls over to Eddie. 1 moment.
Thank you so much, Sarah. While you're doing that, you did a great job talking through the application deadlines and all of the tools that we have on our website. So what I will do is I will walk us through the AMIS demo and show you all of the steps that you will take to complete and submit an application in AMIS. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, here we are. Okay, we're on our website. The first thing that I really want to show you guys is how to log in and how to access your organization in AMIS. So there are 2 ways to do that. The first way is going through our website, cdfifund.gov. In the top right, we have a hyperlink. It's called Sign In, and you click on the hyperlink right here. I'll just open it over here. And let me move this thing. And over here, we have login. The top right, there's a login link. And when you click on the login link right here, it will take you to this page where you will enter your username and your password. If you don't have an AMIS account, please create one as soon as possible. As Sarah pointed out, October 12th is the deadline for creating an account for your organization. If you don't have an AMIS account set up already, you will need to do so by October 12th in order to be eligible to submit your application. So it is a critical deadline. It's something that you will have to do. If you don't have an account, you will click on Join Our Community and then follow all of the steps to create an account. So you will enter your username and your password once you have them, if you don't have an account set up already. And that will take you to a page that looks like this. I'm logging in a different way. This is a test organization, a test org that I would like to use as part of the demonstration. But you should see a very similar page when you log in. And by default, it will take you to the home page. So the first thing that you'd want to do is you want to access your organization. And there's an Organizations tab right here. So I'm going to click on Organizations. And you should see your organization listed. If it's not listed for some reason, make sure that you've selected all organizations under the view and then click on Go. This will show you all of the organizations. So I see my organization here, Test Applicant 2. This is the one that I want to use. So I'm going to click on it. Okay, and this will take me to the org page. This contains all of the organization level data. One important thing to do here is to verify that the information is correct. Some of this information is used for eligibility purposes, so it needs to be correct, especially the organization structure, financial institution type, the date of incorporation, and the certification status. If something is incorrect, please correct it. And if you're unable to correct it, please email us or submit a service request, and we'll follow up. Also, make sure your address is correct, as well as your fiscal year end day over here. Okay, so before I move on to program profiles, one other thing I wanted to point out is there's an affiliates hyperlink. And it's important that your affiliates are listed here. So make sure that they're identified under the affiliates link. After you've confirmed all of the information here, it's important then to go to Program Profiles. I'm going to go to the full list. And you will see these are all of the CDFI fund programs. So the one that we want is CMF. And we're going to click on this P- number over here, and this is the profile for CMF. Before I do that, just wanted to point out that there's a link to the SIMS mapping tool, and this will take you to the same mapping tool that Sarah showed us a few minutes earlier. So this is where you can see whether a specific location of your project is located in an area of economic distress, whether it's rural, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the same tool. You're just able to access it from two different places. Okay, so now I'm going to open up my program profile over here. And this contains the CMF program profile information. So one of the most important things you will need to do on this page before you can create an application is you need to confirm and verify the entity approach. There are two entity approaches that you can select, and we have specific guidance on which one should be selected based on the applicant's track record and the capacity under which the applicant is proposing to execute the CMF award. It's important to do that before you click on Apply for CMF Funding and before you create an application, because the application is generated based on the entity approach selection you make here. So it's very important to make sure that it's correct before you create an application. If you do need to edit it, you can double-click on it, and there's a drop-down. You can select the correct entity type, and then you will click on Save. So let's say for this one, I'm going to, again, this is a test organization, so I'm going to say Affordable Housing Developer/Manager. And again, if you're not sure which entity type is appropriate for your organization, please refer to the NOFA, the application instructions, and the application FAQs. So once you've identified and verified the entity approach, at this point, you can create your CMF application by clicking on Apply for CMF Funding. If you've applied for previous rounds, you will see the funding applications listed on the bottom. There's nothing that you need to do with those. They're just there for your record. But to apply for this round, you will click on Apply for CMF Funding. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And sometimes it takes a little while to generate an application. So it will load, and you will see the little wheel spinning, which that's a good sign. If the wheel stops spinning, that could be problematic, but as long as it's spinning, you're in good shape. Okay, so now we've created an AMIS application. So first, I want to show you some of the navigation tools and how this page is set up. So I'll start over here with the control number. This is a unique number that's assigned to your specific application when it's generated. So this is a unique number, and if you're having any AMIS issues or any issues with your application, when you reach out to us, please include the control number so we know which application you're referring to. To the right of that is the due date. It's November 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's very important to submit the application by that deadline. You will not be able to submit an application after the deadline. AMIS will not allow you. So it's very important to submit it by the deadline, and we strongly encourage applicants to submit the application at least a few days prior to the deadline. Sometimes applicants will try to submit it at 4:59, and then they might run into some data validations or some other issues that they didn't expect. And so to avoid these issues, you really want to try to submit it a few days prior to make sure that you can submit it with no issues. And also, if there are any issues, the AMIS Help Desk will be able to help you until the application deadline, but they will not be able to help you submit the application after the deadline. The next little box shows you how many days, hours, and minutes are left. And then there's also a progress bar, which shows you the percentage of the application that you've completed. So right now it's a brand new application, so it will show 0%. You will need to complete the entire application in order to submit it. So when it shows 100% complete, that's when you know that you'll be able to submit it. The other thing that I wanted to show here is there's a View PDF button that allows you to generate a PDF in real time. So as you complete the PDF, as you complete the application, at any point you can generate a PDF, and you can see and save the PDF. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what it looks like. This is the PDF. For now, all of the fields will be blank because we have not completed any of the fields here. But as you complete the fields and as you click View PDF, those responses will be reflected in the updated PDF. Okay, so some other navigation tools that you might find helpful is, for example, there's a little bookmark tool that you can use. Over here, there's a little checkbox, and by selecting the checkbox, you will see a little bookmark right next to the question. And so what it allows you to do is to see which questions you may want to come back to or which questions you still need to complete. So it can be very helpful to kind of navigate the application. You can also uncheck it as you complete sections. It's something that applicants find helpful. You're not required to use it, but it's something there. It's something there and available for you. Okay, the other thing about AMIS and completing the application that you should be aware of is that AMIS times out when you're not completing the application and you're not clicking on any buttons. After some point, it will time out. And so it's important that you save your responses as you go, as you complete the application. And each page will have a save button at the bottom, which I will show. There's a blue save button that you will need to click, and that will allow you to save the progress that you've made. Even if there's an error on the page, you can still save your work and then come back later and update it. So please keep in mind that the system will time out if there's inactivity. The other thing I wanted to mention is in the application, there are a number of data validations, and if data is entered incorrectly, then you will not be able to submit the application until those issues are addressed. So, for example, just to give you an example, question 2 is requested award amount. So the minimum award amount that you can request is $500,000. Now, if you try to enter an amount that's under $500,000 and click on Save, you will get a validation error. And I'm going to show you what a validation error looks like. You'll get an error message. In this case, it tells you that the applicant may not request an amount below $500,000. So these are very helpful. If you see a data validation error, please don't panic. Follow the instructions that are provided in the error message, and also refer to the application instructions to correct and address the issue. So in this case, I know that the minimum award amount has to be $500,000. So let's say I'm going to now change it to $500,000 and try save again. And now it should allow me to save with no issues. And you will see right here in green that now it says subsection was marked as completed. And also right here on the left, there's going to be a little green check mark. So that shows you that you've completed that question. If there's no green check mark, that means that question or subsection is incomplete, and you will need to complete it before you can submit the application. So I'm not going to go through all of the application questions, but I will show you a few questions where you might have some questions or you may run into some challenges. So the first one that I'm just going to show you is question number 1. This is the organization information. And pretty much all of this information is being pulled from the org profile. And so from the organization page. So if any of the information here is incorrect, it's important to go to the organization page that I showed earlier and correct any issues you might have, because you will not be able to edit any of these fields, and you can see that they're disabled. They're grayed out. It means you cannot edit them. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you see questions with a red asterisk, that means those questions are required to be completed. They're not optional. You have to complete them. The question mark is also very useful. It provides help text. So it tells you what that question is asking, or provides some additional tips that you need to be aware of. So sometimes if you're not sure, you can hover over the help text, the question mark, to get additional information. Okay, so on this page, let's say everything looks correct, and then I'm just going to click on Save to save this. Okay, and as you can see, I got confirmation that the subsection was completed, and also I got a little green check mark on the left. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you was question 3A, states served. This is where you will identify the type of service area that you're proposing to serve, whether it's statewide or multi-state. So let's say I select multi-state. Question 3B was generated, right, based on my response. So now I can click on question 3B, and I can select the states that I want. So here you want to start with row number 1. So that's the first state. Then click on search records and select, let's say I have a project in Alaska. I'm going to select Alaska. And then in question C, I'm going to indicate whether I have experience managing or developing a project in that state in the last 5 years. So let's say I do. I'm going to click on Save. Okay, and it's telling me that I have to, since I selected multi-state, that means I have to enter at least 2 states. If you're serving a single state, you will select statewide. If you're doing multi-state, that means it's at least 2 states or 2 territories. So what that means is I need to add a row. Now, to add a row, there's a little hyperlink over here, Add Row, and that will allow you to add another state. So my second state, I'm going to say row number 2, and now I'm going to select, let's say, Arizona. And for Arizona, I do not have any experience working in that state, so I'm going to select Save. Okay, so I've added 2 states, and I've completed this question. So you'll see the green check mark. I'm not going to go through all of these questions, but there was one question that I do want to show, or one item that I'd like to show, because we do get questions sometimes, is how to attach the SF424. So if you go to the SF424 link right here, you can click on the field, and your SF424 should populate or should be visible, and then you select it and then click Save. If it doesn't show up, you can try typing grant, but it should show up. One thing to note here is that once you submit the SF424 in grants.gov, sometimes it takes 1 or 2 business days to upload the SF424 into AMIS. So if you just submitted the SF424, it may not show up in AMIS the same day, but within a day or 2, it should be uploaded and it should be available for you to select. So again, I'm going to click here. I'm going to start typing grant, and I see my SF424 here, and click Save. If you've submitted multiple SF424s, make sure that you're selecting the correct SF424 here. This is really important. Okay, so that's SF424. One thing I wanted to talk about is conditional questions. And what we mean by that is that there are certain questions in the application that, based on your selection, other questions will populate accordingly. So, for example, question 9C, where you select the proposed uses, if I select rental housing here, then certain questions in this section and the next section will populate based on that choice. So for example, I'll show you this right now. In community impact, I selected rental housing. So these two questions just populated. And these questions, and same with question 21. These three questions populated based on my selection. So if I did not select rental housing and if I had selected homeownership, only homeownership specific questions would have populated. Now if I go back and then I select and I add homeownership, you will see that additional questions will be displayed based on my selection that I'm proposing homeownership and rental. So as you can see now, questions 22A and C and D and E have been populated based on my selection. So it's important to complete the application in the right order because a number of questions earlier on, based on your selection, they will be populated in the rest of the application. So that I just wanted to point that out because we do get questions sometimes about why certain questions do not populate, and that has to do with your selection. So if you need to go back and change something, you can. So if, let's say, for example, I realize I made a mistake and instead of homeownership, I'm proposing rental and economic development activities. You update the check marks here and click Save, and now there will be, additional questions generated. There's going to be a note here basically saying that if you're proposing economic development activities, you do need to select at least one other type, so it can be rental or it can be homeownership, but you're not going to be able to select only economic development activities because you can use only up to 30% of the CMF award can be used for economic development activities. That means the other 70% has to be used for homeownership and or rental activities. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to select rental, click Save, and I want to show you, and then the section is completed. And the other thing that I wanted to show you on validation, because we do get a few questions on validating leverage inputs. Actually, I'll start with question 14. This is where you will enter your all of your projected leverage amounts. And it's important that all of these are entered correctly. If they're not entered correctly, then you might run into some issues later on as you fill out your leverage type data. And I will show you what I mean by that. There's a validate leverage inputs section at the end, which will basically compare the leverage cost that you've entered in question 14. You will compare that with the specific leverage amounts you've entered for enterprise, reinvestment, and project level leverage in questions 15, 16, and 17. And these amounts must match. They must be equal. If they're not equal, you're not going to be able to complete this subsection, and you will not be able to submit the application. It's just something to keep in mind. And same thing for private sources and public sources. There are data validations that will compare your private leverage that you've entered in question 14F against the private leverage that you've entered in questions 15A, 16B, and 17A. So all of the amounts need to match up here. If something doesn't match up, you need to go back to either question 14 or you need to update questions 15 through 17 to make sure that the numbers match. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to show you a few other things before showing you how to submit an application. So let me show you the appendices really quick. There are a number of appendices. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the first one is financing activities. You will select the product. And here you can enter a number of different products. You can always add new products, and you can also delete records using this red delete button. You just select the record that you want to delete here and then delete it. And you can also update it. Appendix 2 has a number of tables. In this case, tables C1 and C2 did not populate because I selected affordable housing developer and manager. If I had selected my entity type as a financing entity, then tables C1 and C2 would have populated. And that's why it's important to select the correct entity type on the program profile. So some tables will populate based on your selections. Appendix 3, project pipeline. One thing to note here on this one is that make sure that your aggregate eligible project costs on the bottom, make sure that these equal the eligible project costs that you've entered in question 14. That's very important. And let me go back to Appendix 3B. In Appendix 3B, it's also important that your total net sources here and eligible project costs equal what you've entered in Appendix 3A for eligible project costs. So all of the numbers have to match up. If not, you need to go back and you need to update the numbers to make sure that they line up. Appendix 4, enterprise level sources of leverage. This one will only populate if you're proposing enterprise level capital in application question 15. If you're not proposing it, there's nothing that you need to do, and you will not even see the appendix form or any of the fields to complete. Appendix 5 is key personnel. You can enter up to 10 personnel that will be critical to implementing the CMF award. Appendix 6 will populate your previous awards and allocations, including those of your affiliates for the CDFI fund. So these are only CDFI fund awards and allocations. It should also include all of the award information for affiliates. And if some of the affiliate award data is not populating correctly, you will need to go to the organization page and make sure that you've selected and identified all of your affiliates, which is what I showed earlier. So make sure all of your affiliates are selected there. Otherwise, this table will not be complete. Application financial data is in Appendix 7. So you will complete Table D and then Table F. So based on your entity type, you will see either loan / equity portfolio, or you will see a property portfolio. So different tables will populate here based on your entity type selection. So in this case, I selected an affordable housing developer, and so that's why a property portfolio table will populate for me. Okay, Appendix 8 is AMIS application attachments. So here is basically drag and drop. It's fairly straightforward. So if you have a doc over here, you just drag and drop it over here. Try to drag and drop it over here. It takes a second, and you do the same thing for the other fields. So audited financial statements for the 2 most recently completed fiscal years, management letters, and an organization chart if you have an affiliate applying in the same round. If you're not a CDFI, there will be another page here that asks you to attach additional supporting documentation related to your primary mission and your nonprofit status. So this is a CDFI. That's why I'm only seeing these documents, but there's a section 2 that applies for organizations that are not CDFIs. Okay, forms and certifications. There's the environmental form and a number of assurances and certifications that you will have to complete. These are all required. Make sure they all have a green check mark before you try to submit the application. And that's pretty much it in terms of completing the application, but I do want to show how to actually submit it. So I'm going to exit out of this application, and I'm going to log in as a different test org and show you how to sign and submit the application. So give me 1 second while I exit out of here. I'm going to log out, and I'm going to have to log in as a different user. So for this one, I'm going to have to go into, this is a different login. This is not something that you have to worry about, but I do need to log in as this test organization. So I logged in as a different org, and I'm going to follow the same steps. Go to the Organizations tab, access the org. This is Test Applicant Org 1, so I'm going to click on it. That's the one that I want. Again, this takes me to the organizational page. This is where you need to update any information and confirm that everything is correct, especially the organizational structure, date of incorporation, and the certification status. You want to make sure that it's correct. If not, please let us know, and we'll work with you to update the information. Okay, so I'm going to go to an application that is already complete. I'm going to click on the program profile, and here is the 2021 application. I clicked on it, I accessed it, so here it is. It's showing me that it's 100% complete. The only thing that is left to do on this application is to sign it and to submit it. So a few things to highlight here. So first of all, only the authorized representative listed on the organization can complete the signature here, the digital signature. So if you're not listed as an authorized representative for the org, you will not be able to sign here. There's a data validation set up. We do get questions sometimes. Folks ask us why I'm not able to sign. Chances are you're not identified as an authorized rep for the org. And so make sure that you are. That's something that can be updated. But let's say you are the authorized representative and you've completed the entire application and everything looks good. One thing to note is that once you submit the application, as outlined in the NOFA, your application will be locked and you will not be able to edit it. And sometimes we do get questions about, well, I submitted my application early, can I go in and make updates? The NOFA is very clear about this. The application has to be locked and cannot be edited once it is submitted. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that you have to be the authorized representative to sign, but anyone can actually submit, any contact for your organization can actually submit the application. So if you know that your authorized representative will be out on vacation, around the deadline, they can digitally sign here and then have someone else have another contact for the organization submit the application. They just have to sign, but anyone for the org can actually submit the application. Okay, so let's say I went through everything. The application looks great. It's 100% complete. As you can see, everything has a green check mark over here. It looks like it's ready to be submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens when we click Submit Application. I'm going to click Submit, and it will ask you to verify that it's ready. Are you sure that you want to submit? And also, it's telling you that once it's submitted, it can no longer be edited. So in this case, I'm going to submit application. I'm going to click on the blue button, and it should take a few seconds. And you will see now it says, thank you for submitting your application. Okay? And also you will see that if you try to edit anything, it won't let you edit. If I exit out of here and I go to the program profile right here, now it shows that the 21 CMF application status is submitted. Okay, so it has been submitted, and it shows it was submitted at 2:51 p.m. So this is another confirmation that your application has been submitted, and you're all set. You'll be able to access the application by clicking on the app number, but you won't be able to make any edits once it's submitted. And if you want, I'll click on Download PDF to show you what a completed application PDF looks like. So you see now all of these fields are completed, all of the questions are answered, and that's what it should look like after you're done. So with that, I think I covered everything that I wanted to in terms of the AMIS demo. Again, if you run into any technical issues with AMIS, you want to reach out to the AMIS help desk. The best thing to do is to submit a service request if you can. You can also email them, amis@cdfi.tresh.gov, or you can call them, 202-653-0422. The best way to reach them is through service requests and through email, rather than leaving voicemail. So with that, thank you again for watching our AMIS demo. We hope you found it useful, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you again.
That concludes today's call. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.